All right, everybody, welcome back to the Sarah Centrella Show. You know, I love a great success story. I love when hustle meets reality and, like you get an opportunity to share that and how that happens. And today, my guest, you guys are going to absolutely love her. Leah is how many times? Three-time gold medal Olympic
Yep.
winner.
Three
You
Olympic
are a
golds. Yep.
multi-world champion softball player. I mean, the accolades go on and on. I will make sure and put them in the description for everybody. You're also a motivational speaker. You have a brand new book that just came out. So we're going to get into all of that. Welcome to the show, Leah Amico.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I'm excited to be on here with you and to be able to share some of my journey. I know that so many of our points of success and things we've done will overlap. So I'm excited to be on here with you.
These conversations are what I live for. I'm telling you, like, I love to be able to pick your brain in our talk today because I love learning, I love growing, and I do that through, hearing other people's stories, hearing how they did that. I'm like a sponge. I want to glean and learn and apply as fast as I can so that, we can all grow and achieve our success. But on this show, one of the things I love to do is kind of start that conversation with learning a little bit more about your backstory. I said in the intro, you're, a gold medal winner. You've done a lot of really, really incredible things. But no one's journey starts there. It starts way, 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 way back. And so I would love for you to kind of take us a little bit through, like, where did this passion for softball come from? Where did this passion to succeed? Because they kind of have to go together, I'm guessing. Where did all of this start for you?
Yeah, I grew up in Southern California, and when I was young, I was the firstborn, and my dad was a big baseball fan. He didn't get to play a lot. His dad didn't really give him that much attention in that area. And so here he has me, this rambunctious child who, was just always up for adventure. And so when I was 7 years old, they signed me up for the local softball league, as well as I played soccer. And so I would do spring softball and fall soccer. And I just took to both of the sports. But after my first year of softball, all the parents were like, man, she is really picking this up. And I was a lefty. So they're like, lefties
Yeah.
pitching can be really good. So my dad, like, it was back in the day. And I tell students this all the time and athletes and people that my parents found somebody. It was not close. They did not have a lot of money. It was a massive investment, but they committed because they saw a talent in me and that I love doing it. And so we would travel 45 minutes away. Sometimes with traffic, it's a couple hours. And I would go and I would take pitching lessons at a time where people didn't do that. But
Right.
investments in the right places pay off. And
Yeah.
so I thrived. I made all stars. And then when I was 14 years old, I had a team come and say, hey, we want her to play with us. It's a travel ball team. We went to Chattanooga, Tennessee. I pitched in the championship game, number one in the whole nation. And I feel like
Wow.
that's when like this dream of next level started becoming because
Yeah.
nobody in my family had gone to a 4 year university. But all of a sudden, I had coaches and other people saying, hey, you could earn a college scholarship. We didn't have a lot of money. So that became this goal, even though I didn't know what it entailed.
Right.
I worked really hard in the classroom. I ended up getting a college scholarship to play at the University of Arizona. And and that was the end goal at that time. Like that, like get
Right.
a
You're like,
college
that's
scholarship.
that's amazing.
Yeah,
Like, that's the big
it's
deal. Yeah.
amazing, right? Get an education, graduate with a degree. Wow, softball has done amazing things in my life. But it was after my first year of college, we got to the Women's College World Series. I ended up getting the only hit in the championship game, but it came at the right time because there was a runner
Wow.
on second who got on an air. We scored and we won 1-0 on a one hitter, my hit.
Oh my
And I
God.
was
All it takes is one sometimes.
that was it, that moment, right? And they said not long after that, softball was going to be in the Olympics in 3 years for the first time ever. Well, I was
Wow.
18 years old and I was like, I'm going to be on that team.
I
And
love
if
that
I
so
thought too
much.
much, yeah, if I thought too much about it, I'd probably been like, there's no way. But I didn't. I was like, I want that. So I
Wow.
ended up making the first ever Olympic softball team when I was 21 years old.
Oh my
And
gosh.
yeah, it was just this journey. And here's what happened. A big part of my story is my second year of college, I came back and I was a pitcher. And then when I wouldn't pitching, I just hit because we had a superstar pitcher, an All American. And the next year, my coach said, actually, we have three pitchers. I need you to go to the outfield. Well, I tell people, I'm on the best team in the country.
Yeah.
I've never played outfield before.
You're like, that's not what
And
I
I tell
do.
people, no. And I said, if I had even taken time to get angry, frustrated, discouraged, I think it would have pulled me back. But you know what I did? I said, I'm going to be the best outfielder there is. And
Yes, girl.
within 2 years, I made the Olympic team as an outfielder. I wouldn't have
Oh
made it
my
as a
God.
pitcher or a first baseman at that point. So I just feel
I
like that
love
shift in
that.
my journey
Yes.
opened up more doors. And I will say in my life, and we'll get into this, but it has been all about seizing the moment and the opportunities before you that has changed my life. And it can be that for anyone.
I love that so much because a lot of times, I've interviewed Olympic athletes before and they, whatever their sport was, and I did not ever think of this until you just said it, has been around. I've talked to sprinters, I've talked to, so their sport has been around their whole life. So they had the aspiration of being an Olympic gold medalist from the time they were really little, and so it didn't even dawn on me that, and I love so much about that because I think it is really relatable to everyone listening, in the fact that traditionally that might have been, people have been like, wait, you're just now, going out for an Olympics at what, 21, you said you made the team? And probably in all the other sports, these people have been training for the Olympics for 10, 15, 20 years. You know what I mean? And so I love that because I think it's relatable to so many of us that have a dream. And whenever that dream comes into your consciousness and you have that click moment like you did, where it's like, oh, that is what I want, then a lot of times that negative voice comes in that says, oh, you're too old, you da da da, all of these things that kind of talk us out of it. Did you have any of that, or was it the fact that like it was brand new really kind of helped just push you kind of towards it? I just find that so fascinating that, you were on the first ever team. That's incredible.
Yeah, I had moments, I think, but I think it's important to not allow those moments to turn into mountains because they will block you. And I think doubt is normal, right? It's what we do with it and how long we stay there and sit in it and where it pushes us back to, or if it causes us to charge forward harder. So I would say I had a moment my freshman year of college. I get onto this top team. I'm a pitcher. We're practicing against our own team, and we have some of the best hitters in the country on our team. And I think I throw a good pitch, but the ball has hit harder than I've ever seen it before out of the fence and in
Yeah.
scrimmage against our own team. But you talk about just discouragement and the doubt that came crushing in of, do I have what it takes to make it at this level? Because in
Right.
high school,
Yeah. You
travel
were
ball is really good, but now I'm playing against athletes that are 4 years older than me, and they're the
right.
best of the best, and it's a daily basis. And I went and talked to my mom, and of course I had a boyfriend back in California. I was at Arizona, and of course I'm thinking every excuse, right, to run from the hard.
Right.
And she just talked me into like, listen, you got to take this and learn from it. And I say that that was a big moment because I think when it gets really hard and that doubt creeps in even more, it really is that make it or break it moment, right? You're going to either run toward and learn from it, or you're going to run from it and you're going to just give up. And so I'm so glad my life would have changed
Yeah.
drastically. And so at the end of that year, I get the winning hit and our team, wins a championship. And literally, it just changed the trajectory of my life. But with that, Sarah, like you mentioned, it actually changed my belief system and the mindset
Mm,
because I already like obviously believed I could be there, but now it
right.
was like, I can do anything. And when you get that mindset,
Absolutely.
there's nothing that can stop you.
Oh, and I love, again, so many of the twists and turns in your story. And I find that there's always, some sort of adversity. I almost feel like you need a little bit of adversity to not just toughen you up, but to make you better, to understand like how to adapt. And, when the coach came to you and was like, hey, I have this other position that I would want you to do. That was a really big moment. There are probably many people who would say, well, that isn't my thing. I'm going to transfer schools, or I'm going to get out of this because I don't do that. And the ability to lean into it and say, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to be the best that I can be in this position is probably something that you have used throughout your life. And it's almost needed, right? To be able to have that versatility. Like sometimes those trials feel so awful, and we like internalize them so much, but long run, you would never have gotten all of these accolades had that not happened, right? Like, What do you tell people
I
now, like when you're out sharing that, like how to deal with those adversities? How do you think that helped you?
I think it is the game changer. I think that when you're willing to face adversity and when you're able to move forward through it, I really believe you can actually use adversity as an advantage. I think people who pull back, like I mentioned, or it makes you give up, or doubt creeps in and then it gets the best of you because you say, okay, maybe that's just not meant for me. And sometimes that's the case, right? And you change direction and pivoting is okay. But I think when you face it, and I will tell you that has absolutely led to me getting out of my comfort zone in so many different areas. I mean, I do commentating with ESPN. And I'll tell you, my first
Oh,
day
amazing.
commentating, I walked off and I never wanted to do it again. And I almost didn't. And it was with a different it was not ESPN in the beginning when I had done it. And I said, nope, bad experience. I'm good. Not meant for me. And
Yeah.
years later, ESPN came calling and I almost said no. And my husband was like, Leah, you have to try it one more time.
Yes.
And
Oh,
again, it was so, and this is what I would say, between calling my mom, between my husband, like speaking that
yeah.
voice of reason, people that I trust. And I'll tell you, so that's also part of it with my coach. Like I trusted him. And so I was like willing to go. So when we surround ourselves with the right people who are going to be like, hey, we're here for you in the hard, like it helps you also to run forward stronger. And I'm so glad my husband was like, go try again, because now I've been with ESPN for like 18 years. And, you
So
know,
amazing.
it's life changing when you'll
Yeah.
walk into it. And so I see how far and how much easier uncomfortable situations are now for me. And doors just keep opening up because of them. So I'm a big supporter of people getting out of their comfort zone.
I love that so much. I mean, two things on there. Like the fact that like the first time you did ESPN, you're like, absolutely not. I think lots of us have been in those situations where you're just like, oh, maybe I'm just really not good at that. Maybe that is not my lane. But to do what, as a parent now, I tell my kids, try it again. You never know. You have to give it another try, right? To come back, and you spoke a minute ago about the confidence that that brings, and I think you're so right. There's when that doubt comes in and when we listen to it, we sit back and we sit on the sidelines. We are waiting for confidence to come in and push us into the game, whatever it is that we want to do, right? And I always tell people it does not work that way. Like the only way you get confidence, the only way you be an expert, the only way any of that stuff happens is if you're putting yourself out there. And then when you do and you succeed at something you didn't know if you could succeed in, there is no better confidence. There's no other way to get to genuine confidence, I feel like. Like, are there any tips that you share on how to build confidence? I think that's a huge thing right now. People are talking all the time about imposter syndrome and, oh, I don't feel ready. And how do we move past that?
I agree with you with what you're saying. And I really believe it is taking consistent action. It's taking, whether no matter how small or how big the step is, it's taking the step. So doing one thing, doing the next thing. And you can always, again, change course a little bit if you need to, learn what you need to learn, and then do it again. And that's the key, because that is how I became an Olympic gold medalist. It was by being willing to fail, because in my sport, especially as a hitter, you fail a lot, but finding different ways to then be successful after you failed. That's what I believe really the gift is in failure. So I talk about failing forward, but failing forward fast, because what happens is, again, at the elite level with athletes, is you have to be able to process information and adjust, for us, from pitch to pitch, not at bat to a bat, not game to game, but pitch to pitch, if you want to be really successful when it counts. So what happens is you now build what I call, yeah, that resilience muscle, right? And that's the mindset aspect of it all, is how tough am I? Because when you're resilient, you are willing to go forward through the hard stuff, right? You're taking it on. You're heading into the storm and you know a storm's coming, but you're like, that's okay, because when I get through the storm, there's a lot of sun and I'm going to also know a lot more. And so that's what I would say. Building confidence is consistent action. For me, it was everyday preparation and learning fast from it. That's how you become more confident, is not making excuses. It's
Yeah.
not blaming and pointing fingers. And then also watch what other confident people do. I saw, and I had elite athletes around me. So it really helped. I mean, if I was doing the comparison game, it got hard. But if I was learning from them and
Yeah.
watching them and applying what I saw help them, now I was pushing myself even more forward quicker. And so, I think it's just those things of that consistent action, taking accountability, and then learning from those around you.
That's such a good point. Like in the beginning, I said, I've always been a sponge. I've always really kind of considered myself a lifelong learner, but a learner applier. Like I want to learn, I want to process in my own language, my own like weird brain, and then spit it out as action in whatever it is that I'm working on. But that's always kind of helped me to cherry pick the things that I'm seeing other people doing that I want to figure out how to apply in my life. And I think that's such a great point because there is such a big temptation to compare. And the second you do that, like that never feels good. That's always going to be a tunnel you want to get out of as fast as you can. So if instead you're kind of looking at it from that sponge mentality, like how can I glean or cherry pick and learn and then internalize it and get it to work for me? Like that's fast track to success. I want that, right? Like I want to get on that as fast as I can. So I love that you have this mindset and it makes total sense that you have it now, but did you have it when you were younger? I mean, I'm obsessed with athletes' brains because I think it's a little bit hardwired. Like you do have this, I don't know, every athlete that I've ever talked to has kind of understood this concept, whether they feel like they're good at it or not, but an ability to change whatever conversation is happening in your head. And you talked about from pitch to pitch. So I would think you'd have to learn how to get really good at that. Just because I struck out 2 times, I can still hit the ball the third time, right? And that's just, it becomes like an instantaneous mental conversation. But was there anyone like teaching you some of those mental skills, mental toughness skills? Did you have a coach or anybody that like kind of taught you how to do that, or did it come pretty naturally to you?
I think that we're all wired differently. So I think there was some that was natural. I think some people naturally start out with I'm more optimistic.
Yeah.
I'm more hopeful. I'm more positive and like, I should be doing that. Good things should happen, right?
Right.
Now, I was very hard on myself, but here's where I think I found why I succeeded and didn't have as far to go as some people who just constantly beat themselves up. And that could be your past experiences and how you grew up. My dad was really hard on me. So
Yeah.
I definitely, he would point out the one thing I did wrong. So I at times would think about that. But I think because I always used it as, okay, well, I'm going to make that better next time instead of I'm not good enough. I'll never be good enough because it's what you do with that. Like this reality is something not good might have happened, right? But what do I do with it? And that is the game changer. Because if I use it and I just, okay, that just reveals and shows I'm not worthy. I'm not going to make it.
Right.
And I did that a little bit with that, TV experience was
Yeah.
like, it's just not meant for me. I am not good at that. Right.
Right.
But with the other, what I realized, because I was like, how did I have that type of pressure or not pressure, but expectation for myself?
Right.
And it was because even on my bad days, number one, I always felt like I can and will be better. I'm going to figure out how. And number two, so solution oriented always.
Yeah.
And then number two is even on my hardest day, I'm still better than my opponent. If I'm having a
I
bad day,
love
that's
it.
okay. I'm still better than you.
I love
That
it. And that comes
always,
down to that internal
yes,
dialogue, right? Like you were
it
telling
is.
yourself that. And I think that's so important because that to me is what builds belief system. So whatever I'm telling myself over and over and over again starts producing results, starts producing how I show up, how I believe, what I truly believe, which always starts coming back to you, right? Starts being mirrored back to you. And so taking that adversity or taking that feedback, even when it's critical, and turning it into fire. Like I always say, like that is the fuel for the hustle. Like you and I think a lot alike. When I get that, I'm like, okay, well, how do I not get that again? I'm gonna do whatever I can do to make sure I don't get that feedback again, right? Like I want to change it. So you just came out with a new book. Tell us about kind of the book's concept, the gold standard. Makes sense. You are the gold winner, multi-gold winner. But how have you translated that into some steps that can help everybody, including everyone listening today?
Yeah, I talk about the gold standard, and it's called 14 Ways to Live a Life of Excellence. That's the tagline underneath it. And it's really these steps that are choices for us. And I talk about it's 4 sections. So G stands, it's an acronym. G stands for goal setting, O stands for overcoming obstacles, it's the mindset, L stands for the leadership, piece of like how we communicate, how we lead, what we do, right? And then the D is the discipline and the dedication. And that's the action piece of like the daily habits. And also, I talk about enjoying the journey and finishing strong, things that like really it's our choice, right? It's not only how talented, how skilled we are, and how smart we are, how much money we have. It's what do I show up like every single day? And so, how I've been explaining it to people is I really believe that the gold standard is about having a map to excellence. We know the destination we want to reach, but how do we get there? And I talk about this acronym MAP, which is mindset, action, and people. I believe if you don't have the right mindset, if you're not willing to take intentional action, or if you have the wrong people in your life, you're not getting to your destination, right? If we are going somewhere we've never been, or maybe it's a further trip we want to get to, and it's these really big, lofty goals and dreams, you have got to have those steps in place. And so throughout my book, I talk about growing more confident. I talk about discipline and habits that helped me win gold medals, but little things that you can take towards the target that you're shooting at, right? And what you want to do. I talk about surrounding yourself with winners, with people who have the right mindset, because that's only going to help you, but also people who have different strengths than you, because now you can complement each other. That's how I won gold medals. If we were all the same, we'd have never been Olympians in
Right.
softball. We were all different. And so I talk throughout my book about these things that really are within our choice, because here's what I'm a big believer is you get that map to excellent, right? The right mindset, the right action, and the right people. And now you're heading toward that destination, and you do it the right way. You give maximum effort, right? You're disciplined, you build the positivity and stay on target. And then excellent an excellent process is going to lead to excellent outcomes. It's not guaranteed, right? We trained for gold, right? Every single day. But it didn't mean we're not going to have a mistake happen in the big game. But all you can take care of, and that was a big thing for us, was control the controllables. Do what you can control, your attitude, your effort, and how you treat people, and the results are going to come. And so that's what my book is all about. That's the gold standard, is showing up every day as your best self. And when you do that, you're going to also help others be better, and great things are going to come.
I love that methodology and that process because, man, just trying to wake up every day and figure it out is just not the way to go. Like when you have steps on, okay, if I do this and I do this, like you said, and if I continue to show up day after day in this process and follow this process, there's no way I'm not going to get different results. I mean, just logically thinking about it, if I do something that dramatically different and am consistent by it, of course, it's going to lead to a result that I want. And I think so many people are kind of sitting around and hoping that's going to happen to them and kind of waiting for either an opportunity to be like, yes, this is the perfect thing for you, or a moment to feel like, yes, I'm perfectly ready, and all of those things. And they've forgotten to do any of that stuff, any of that actual like process work and looking at, and I love the map that you talked about, because there's multiple components. It's not just about me. It's not just about the work that I'm doing to achieve whatever I'm achieving it. It is about my mindset, but it's about, like you said, the community that I'm in, or the support system that I have. And talk a little bit about, because I think you mentioned three different people who are really, really pivotal in your life that were supportive and really kind of helped you in moments where otherwise you might have, quit. And your mom being one of those first, like really pivotal ones for you. But there's obviously a lot of people out there who feel like, hey, I don't have a support system. Maybe my husband or wife or whatever doesn't support me, doesn't want me to do this dream, and I don't have a community like that. How do we start to kind of create that or build that if we're feeling like it doesn't exist and I'm on an island? Because that's a tough place to be.
Yeah, it is hard. And I know not everybody starts with that. And I will say, I went to 3 Olympics. I retired when my son was 3 years old. I was the first mom on the Olympic team.
Wow.
And he was 3 when I got done. And um, remember finding myself in a situation where I had a lot of acquaintances, but I had been on the road, and a lot of my sisterhood came from my team, but they didn't live near me. And so something came up, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I don't have locally that type of friend or person that I could call up and be like, I need you right now. And it just hit my heart of like, I've got to find that. And so I had to get out of my comfort zone. I went and joined a mom's group because now I have a little one and I got to get plugged in if we're going to get plugged in as, a
Yeah.
family. That was hard. That was hard to just put
Yes.
myself
Yeah.
out there and be like, "Hi guys, I'm
I'm
Leah."
new.
you know? And then I just would take some connections I did have. My sister-in-law, she kind of had a built-in group and I was like, "Hey, can I come hang out?" And so I got to meet people through her. And that's how it slowly but surely started. And I look back and a lot of times it was just one person, but then now I look, I have so many people. And so I think it's that, like, who do you have right there? The one person. It might be a past mentor, it might be a friend, it might be a coach or a teacher or even someone younger than you, but
Yeah.
that they see you and care about you. Because I've had people that are younger than me that have impacted me in really big ways. And so I think that it's starting maybe with that one person, and that you're right. That community is huge. I talk about salt. I talk about, right, we all need a little salt in our life,
Yeah.
and salt
Yeah.
makes things taste better and it preserves things.
Right.
But I say a support system, and that was my mom. She was the soft place to land no matter what was happening. And then A is accountability partners, right? And so those people that are going to be honest with you,
Yeah.
because that's the other thing. Like, people will lie to us because they don't know
Right.
what to
You're like,
to say.
that's not
We
helpful
just
in the long run.
we need to be able to understand and know that they care about us. We're willing to receive it when we know someone really cares. And then the L is the leadership, the mentor piece. And
Mm,
I'll tell you, like, we might have to look for that, but I've had some phenomenal mentors, but I had to look for it. And
yes.
then the T, that's the team, that's the coworkers, that's the people that are maybe like going the same direction I'm going, but they're next to me, right? So we need that too. And then I believe at some point we give back, because I've mentored now a lot of people, and I learn probably more when I'm mentoring than
Yeah.
I do when I'm being mentored. So, my mom, my husband, obviously, once I got married, my biggest fan, has allowed me to travel and speak and compete when I was playing, and then also my coach. I would say that my college coach, who also coached me on my last Olympic team, was such a father figure, and he did everything in a gold standard way. That's how I
Yeah.
learned, and then now wanted to emulate, because what I realized was I was able to blossom and thrive underneath his leadership. And I wanted every person I ever led, whatever aspect of life, right? I wanted them to feel the same. He believed in me. He poured out as much information as he could so that I could receive it. And he really just showed me a path. And so, to me, like, that's what it's about. I talk, one chapter is about building strong relationships, because we can have strong relationships with people, leaders,
Yeah.
people next to us, people that we're mentoring.
I love that category breakdown. I think a lot of people do forget about the connections you can make with someone younger. And right before we kind of hit record, I was telling you a little bit about where my kind of methodology and everything initially came from. Some of my audience might know this story, but when I was first starting out, gosh, I was probably 35, I guess, rebuilding my life after my husband left. It's a big, long story. But my son and I were big Oregon Duck fans, football fans, and I had reached out to surprise my son to two of the stars to see if they would play catch with him, because I was like, I can't even afford to throw this kid a party. I can't even like buy him a present, but I was trying to think outside the box, right? And so the two stars, Kenyon Barner and Ed Dixon, were like, yeah, sure. If you're here, we'll absolutely come out. And it sparked a friendship. They're still two of my closest friends to this day. But especially Kenyon, he had this incredible positive mindset. And truly, like, visualization was a big thing. And he was like 21 years old. I mean, he was like a kid, and it was so crazy because I'd never heard someone really talk like that, really say that, like, hey, you don't have to be negative, you can choose. And I was like, wait, but my thoughts are doing this thing. And he's like, well, you can decide not to think that. And I was just like, what are you talking about? So it's so crazy how influenced I was, and
Mm.
how a friendship that, honestly, like, people probably were like, I don't understand that. That's crazy. That's weird. And we've just been amazing friends to each other for so long, and learned both, from each other. And I think, like, I also have a best friend who's 10 years younger than me, and, has been my ride or die for 15 years. So I think that openness to
Mm.
opening yourself up to meeting and connecting with all types of people who are maybe, not normally who you'd be like, oh, this is my best friend material. Because it really does give you that community, you can learn from it. And then, like you said, turning around and mentoring, and, that's been a really important piece to me. But I also have my mentors that I talk to and look up to, and that fill my cup when I need it. And you can go out there, like you said, and be intentional about creating that, find the groups, do the things. I love that so much. Is there anything else about the gold standard mindset that really you feel like is the one takeaway? If someone did this one thing, they would really start to get some results?
Well, I just think it's perspective, like you just mentioned. Sometimes you have to hear it. You don't know what you don't know until you hear it. But then when you hear something like you just mentioned, you have to decide, do I believe that? Am I willing
Right.
to try that? And so I really believe it's the willingness to learn something new, to be coachable, to, again, it gets you out of your comfort zone, but to say, hey, okay, maybe there's truth in that. That was a big thing, was our coach always told us that your attitude and your effort and how you treat people, like that's all within your control, no matter what's been done to you, no matter and I tell people all the time, like they can tell you, hey, you have so much potential, but it doesn't matter if you're not willing to work hard, right?
Right.
They can tell you like, or treat you terrible, but it's your choice on how you want to respond. We justify a lot, but man, when we start shifting that narrative, and I'll tell you, Sarah, like when you think about it, and this is what I learned through sports, when we're doing well, everybody can show up and put a smile on their face,
Absolutely.
be
Yep.
kind, right? But it's when things start shaking. It's
Absolutely.
when the trials come. It's when we're going through something and we think, oh no. It's when we start to become fearful, anxious, depressed,
Yeah.
discouraged. Those things can start to rob who we are and what we're capable of. And so it's like, what do we do? So do we recognize number one, and how quick can we change it? Because we're going to have that stuff pop up,
Right.
but it's how quick can I recognize it? And then, okay, that perspective shift. What do I tell myself? I want to tell just one story. I was walking off of the softball field. I had a bad game. Our team did really well. So I'm just mad at myself right now. And I walk off the field, and we have this one fan who was a super fan. He came to our practices, our games, and was in his mid-20s, and so a few years older than me. And he is just the biggest smile, and he's in his wheelchair. And he'd gotten in an accident in high school, could never walk again, but he found so much joy watching us on that field. And I'll never forget, I see him smiling, wanting to give me a big high five. And in that moment, all my frustration and the
Yeah.
discouragement shifted. And this thought came through: be thankful that you can run the bases,
Exactly.
be
Perspective.
thankful.
Yeah.
Perspective.
Yeah.
And I think that's so, so important. And what do we usually do? We usually do that comparison, and we do the
Mhm.
other perspective. So
Right.
we get to decide how we perceive things. And I really think that that's the game changer, is that shifting your mind to gratefulness, to,
Mhm.
hey, what can I learn from this? To, hey, it might be hard right now, but I'm not alone. A lot of people have gone through hard stuff, probably a lot harder. And there is strength on the other side once I get through this. So that to
Amen.
me is what it's about.
Amen. I love this so much. Thank you for coming on and just pouring into us and inspiring me and inspiring everyone else on here. I'll make sure I put the links to the book here in the show notes. And is there anything else that you are working on? What's next for you right now?
Actually, I do a little bit of coaching on the field just from my background. I'm going to be coaching a professional softball team this summer in Florida called the
Amazing.
Florida Vibe. I live in California,
Amazing.
but I'll spend the summer there. I also coach Team Israel. I do a little bit of that internationally in the summer. And then otherwise, I'm just continuing to speak. I'll be speaking to some scientists this fall at a pharmaceutical company. I'm speaking to teachers in New Jersey at a school district. I'm just
Love that.
continuing to grow that aspect of what I'm doing. My youngest is, I have three boys, and my youngest is going to graduate in 1 year. So I feel like now the timing. I actually homeschooled for
Mhm.
13 years.
Oh my
That was a
gosh.
challenge. Let me tell you. I said that's
Wow.
harder than winning three gold medals.
Right?
I'll tell you right now.
So I have
But
to ask the question probably everyone asks, do any of them play baseball?
that's the funny thing. My oldest, no, we tried all the sports because he was the firstborn and he doesn't
Yeah.
even like sports.
He's like,
My
no.
next one, yeah, my next one fell in love with football. And my youngest ended up a track star. He's a hurdler.
Oh,
So,
I love it.
you know, yeah, I wanted them to find their
Their
passions.
thing.
So
Yes.
I'll tell you, Sarah, like that was so big for me. I won 3 gold medals because my parents supported my talents, my
Right.
passions, and gave me every opportunity to succeed. I wanted my kids to have that same opportunity, and they found what they love. And so
I love
the
that.
work
Just
ethic
the
part,
best, right? As a parent.
yeah, it's absolutely, there's nothing better. So yeah, so just continuing to speak.
I love that. Thank you so much for being on. And everybody, go follow, go support, drop some comments in the show notes here. And we would love to hear from you. And until next time, everyone, get out there and hustle and thrive.